The first time low-rise jeans ruled the world, Britney Spears was on every magazine cover, the iPod was a luxury item, and Mean Girls ruled high school cafeterias. Fast forward 2 decades, and those same jeans, once exiled from closets everywhere, are back on the racks, flaunted on runways and Instagram feeds alike. Butterfly clips, baguette bags, shiny lip gloss, crop tops, and tinted sunglasses, once the uniform of late 90s and early 2000s icons, have re-emerged with a vengeance. The past is not only present, it's dominating the future of fashion and pop culture. This is more than just nostalgia. It's a full-scale cultural resurrection. To understand why 90s and Y2K fashion is suddenly the hottest thing in pop again, we need to dive deeper than fabric trends. This is about the psychology of nostalgia, the cyclical nature of style, the rise of Gen Z influence, and the yearning for escapism in an era of digital overwhelm. It's about fashion's ability to act as a cultural reset button, and how trends that once felt dated are now reinventing identity for a whole new generation. The 90s and early 2000s were defined by extremes. It was the era where minimalism and maximalism coexisted. On one end of the spectrum, you had Calvin Klein's sleek, androgynous silhouettes, and on the other, you had the maximalist chaos of juicy couture tracksuits, rhinestones, and hyper-feminine glamour. For millennials who grew up with these trends, and Gen Zs who are rediscovering them on TikTok, these aesthetics feel like a playground of expressive possibility. But how did we get here? Fashion is cyclical. What goes out of style almost always comes back, repackaged and refreshed. Typically, trends re-emerge in 20 to 30-year cycles. In the 2010s, we saw a revival of 70s boho styles. In the late 2010s, 80s power shoulders and neon hues returned. Now, right on schedule, it's time for the 90s and early aughts to shine again. It's not just coincidence, it's sociology. People tend to romanticize the decades they were children in or just missed. It becomes a form of vicarious nostalgia. Gen Z, many of whom were born after the Y2K boom, are finding novelty in the style their older siblings and parents once wore. What makes the current resurgence particularly interesting is how digitally accelerated it is. TikTok, Instagram, and Pinterest have turned the internet into a time machine. Vintage lookbooks and celebrity paparazzi shots from 2 decades ago are just a scroll away. A Gen Z teen in 2025 can see photos of Paris Hilton leaving a club in 2003 and replicate her look by the next day. In previous eras, style evolution happened slowly. Now it's instant. This speed creates both abundance and confusion, but it also sparks creativity. The Y2K aesthetic thrives in this environment because it's inherently playful, chaotic, and self-aware, all traits that resonate in a meme-driven world. The rise of social media also means that fashion trends are no longer dictated by luxury houses or fashion magazines alone. Influence has been democratized. TikTok creators in their bedrooms have just as much sway as stylists at Vogue. And the trend cycles are happening faster than ever before. One viral video can catapult a microtrend, like the return of platform flip-flops or mini shoulder bags, into a full-blown cultural movement. But it's not just about algorithms. The 90s and Y2K aesthetics align with deeper emotional needs. These decades represent a pre-crisis era for many, before the 2008 recession, before social media burnout, before the pandemic. There's a wistful longing for a time when life seems simpler, sillier, and more spontaneous. Y2K fashion embodies that feeling. It's unapologetically fun, ironic, and anti-serious. It's not about timeless elegance, it's about capturing attention and emotion. Take, for instance, the meteoric rise of brands like Blue Marine, which have fully leaned into early 2000s aesthetics with pastel furs, glittering details, and belly chains. Or the way legacy brands like Versus and Dyer are revisiting their own Y2K archives for inspiration. Even high fashion is surrendering to the wave. Designers are reinterpreting the era not as a joke, but as a fertile ground for experimentation and cultural commentary. Of course, not everyone is thrilled by the return of low-rise jeans or baby tees. For many, these trends evoke painful memories of unrealistic beauty standards and toxic celebrity culture. The early 2000s were also an era of body shaming, diet culture, and tabloid cruelty. To bring back the fashion is, in some ways, to revisit that baggage. But Gen Z seems intent on doing it differently this time. The goal isn't to replicate the past exactly, it's to remix it. The new Y2K style is more inclusive, more body positive, and more self-aware. It's about owning the look rather than being owned by it. In a world where gender norms are increasingly fluid and fashion is more expressive than prescriptive, Y2K style offers the perfect toolkit. Its mix and match chaos invites play. It doesn't demand a particular body type or identity. It allows for hyperfemininity, androgyny, or nostalgic comfort, all within the same closet. In many ways, the current wave of retro fashion is more progressive than the era it imitates. Mainstream media has also caught on. Shows like Euphoria have influenced how we view personal style, bringing back elements like rhinestone makeup, tie front tops, and platform sandals. The series captures not just aesthetics, but emotion, how clothing can be armor, performance, and vulnerability all at once. It's a perfect mirror for the Y2K revival, where fashion is more than just surface, it's storytelling. What we're seeing, ultimately, is a generational reclaiming of aesthetic memory. Millennials are revisiting their youth with the perspective of adulthood. Gen Z is creating its own version of nostalgia through someone else's history. Together, they're reshaping what it means to be in style. The past is not a museum, it's raw material, and 90s and Y2K fashion is being reproposed not out of lack of innovation, but from an abundance of meaning. The fusion of fashion and pop culture has never been stronger. In an age where everything is content, fashion becomes one of the most visible markers of cultural alignment. Wearing a Von Dutch cap or layering a spaghetti strap dress over a white tee isn't just about the outfit. It's a signal. It says, I know the reference, I get the joke, I'm part of the moment. It's also a reflection of our fractured, postmodern identity landscape. In a world that's increasingly unpredictable, there's comfort in reclaiming familiar images. The past becomes a safe space, even when it's repackaged in neon pink. 90s and Y2K fashion doesn't ask for subtlety. It invites exaggeration, chaos, and joy. And in 2025, that's a form of rebellion. As fashion continues to recycle, remix, and reinvent, it's clear that this trend is more than just a flash in the pan. It's a full-scale movement with cultural, psychological, and aesthetic roots. Whether it's Paris Hilton walking the Met Gala in a rhinestone tracksuit or a TikTok teen reimagining clueless outfits in their bedroom, the message is the same. The past is pop again, and it's never looked more vibrant. So, will the 90s and Y2K domination last? Probably not forever. Fashion will keep evolving. The 2010s will have their revival next. But this moment, right now, is more than just about clothes. It's about identity, memory, and power. It's about dressing up not just to be seen, but to see yourself in history. In the end, the return of these styles is a love letter to a time when things felt lighter, flashier, and maybe a little less complicated. And whether you're in a crop top, cargo pants, or chunky sneakers, you're not just wearing a look, you're wearing a mood, a moment, and a message.